All right, I have 12:30 on my time, so we're going to get kicked off here. Welcome. Today is Thursday, May 14th. Thank you again for joining me for another edition of the Sage Rutty Telek, what you need to know about your 401k plan right now. So, as always, we'll start with a couple of housekeeping matters. First, just like to mention that it's designed to be short and sweet and valuable, so we try and keep it to 15 minutes or less or more. If you don't mind saving questions for the end, I have some time allotted at the end to address questions. There is a tool within Zoom that you can submit your questions, the Q&A button. And I also wanted to highlight that we're now have the prior sessions, and this one will be available on our website. So if you go to sagerutty.com/401k, the recordings plus the quick summary one-pagers are available right on the website. So what are we talking about today? Tackling three topics. So the first is talking about gambling and investing, which should be an interesting one. The second, we'll touch a little bit on the reopening of the economy, and then also talk about automation and de-automation. So let's dive right into gambling and investing. So this is by far the most common analogy that I hear out there. People love to talk about, okay, if I'm investing, I'm just gambling my money out there, or when there's risk in the market, that means I'm just, I could be going to a casino instead of putting my money into the stock market. And it is definitely not the same. I think that goes without saying, but one of the biggest differences that easily gets lost in the analogy is that when you're investing, you're actually an owner in something, right? You have a core object that you're taking ownership of. When you're gambling, right, if you put a chip down on black, you don't now own a portion of whatever black's representing. You are just, making a bet. Arguably more important, as far as differences go, is that when you're gambling, the odds are against you. When you're investing, the odds are in your favor. So I want to do a quick breakdown of exactly what that looks like. I chose to take a look at roulette because it has one of the highest odds at a casino. So if you go into a casino and you're gambling on roulette, the odds that you win on any one single round is just under 49%. If you're gambling on a second round, the odds that you win both of them drops down to a little under 24%. 3 rounds, you're looking at 11. 4 rounds, you're dropping into the mid single digits, right? So the odds are always against you. The reason why the casinos are so gigantic compared to your house is that the odds are favoring the casino, not favoring the people playing there. Investing, on the other hand, has the odds in your favor. So any 1 year period, actually 75% of the time, the returns are positive. If you start stretching that out to 5 years to 10 years, right, the odds continue to go up in your favor. And there's actually never been a negative 16-year period in the history of the stock market. Compliance certainly will not let me say that there couldn't be one in the future. But historically speaking, if you've invested and waited 16 years, even if you were the least lucky person in history, you put your life savings in the day before the Great Depression, and you waited 16 years, you still made money on the stock market. And I know that there's kind of two groups of people that are hearing this. The first group are those more than 16 years out to retirement saying, okay, perfect. You know what? I can live with that. I have more than that. The odds are in my favor. It'd be crazy not to invest. The other group is saying, I don't have 16 years, right? I'm retiring in 3 years. Those odds aren't good to me. Well, first and foremost, this is 16 years before you need to spend the money, right? So even if you're retiring tomorrow, I hope that you're not planning on spending 100% of your account tomorrow, right? Hopefully, even when you hit retirement, you have another 30 years that you need that money to be able to last you. And so while there's dollars that need to be spent on day 1, day 2, year 1, year 2, as you start stretching things out further, you need your money to continue to grow and continue to outpace inflation. The second piece of it is it's 16 years if you these numbers are looking exclusively at an aggressive all stock portfolio, right? So I just used the S&P index. So if you were in 100% stocks, every 16-year period has been positive. Most people, when hitting retirement, do not stay 100% in stocks, right? Having some sort of income strategy to go along with hitting retirement is typically a good idea. And I normally recommend for clients that we start putting an income strategy in place, typically 5 to 6 years out to retirement. Having it in place that you can allow some of your longer term dollars to stay aggressively invested while not having to worry about still, putting food on the table, keeping the lights on, spoiling the grandkids. So the second topic I wanted to talk about today is the reopening of the economy. I think this is something really big on a lot of people's hearts and minds right now. And what's going to happen. Looking from the stock market point of view, there's a lot of potential that it could be really, really great. We could see that things go really smoothly, that the stock market reacts really positively and skyrockets from here. There's also a chance that it could go really terribly. And there's as good a chance that it could be a non-event. It could be just a pretty level, consistent reaction to it. And if you've attended some of the prior Teleks, what you'll notice is this trend is that the short-term future is unknowable, right? It's impossible to predict what the stock market's going to do in the short term. Over the long term, it has always gone up. In the short term, it's anybody's guess. And the reopening of the economy is, again, an unknowable action and what the effect will be on the stock market. Some of the considerations and some of the good and the bad on what can happen and what's going on are some of the signs that we're seeing right now. Certainly, it'll be good to see businesses going back to making profits. As we talked about early on, when you're investing, you're an owner in these businesses, and you make money as they make profits. So it'll be good to see them opening their doors, continuing to make profits, and going back to that. And I'd argue that the stimulus package has been a really positive note for the stock market and for the economy. Putting politics aside, it seems as though Washington has learned some lessons from some of our prior patches of volatility, and so it's encouraging to see that there's been some safety net created for individuals and for businesses. As far as some of the early indications we've seen, as businesses begin to reopen, and typically other states, as New York's lagging a little bit behind, there appears to be a good amount of reduced overhead opportunities of businesses learning from the changes that they had to make because of being quarantined or because of some of the lockdown. And what we're seeing is they, are recognizing, okay, what things are going to be done better virtually now that we've had to try them out. There's probably some things that can be done better virtually. There are some expenses that we're able to cut. And as they go back to work, not having that overhead. And the fourth good sign that I saw is that while unemployment is extremely high right now, 97% of the people that have filed for unemployment are under the banner of temporary, right? They're either furloughed or they're laid off with full intention of returning to the workforce at 100%. And the majority of those returning to the same employer back at 100%. Some of the negative signs that we've been seeing or negative potential that's out there, certainly a resurgence of the coronavirus could trigger re-quarantining, which would be bad for the economy. Obviously, the first 2 quarters profits are down for many of the businesses out there. Unemployment is definitely high, historically speaking. And also there's this uncertainty, and the market doesn't typically like uncertainty. And the uncertainty on how things are going to be reopened and how it's varied state by state and very much tentative based on different guidelines across the US. So certainly that has a negative impact on the stock market. What I think is important to remind people is that the stock market's moving in anticipation, right? So it's not waiting to see, okay, our profit's down or not. It's trading right now in expectation. So if you just Google a news story on the effect on the market, typically it says that the market went up 2% today because it exceeded expectations, or it dropped 2% today because it didn't meet expectations. It's constantly pricing in anticipation of things, not waiting to be reactive of these signs that we're seeing. So what that tends to result in is it's never as negative as it could be, or never as positive as it could be, because people are trading in anticipation of what is about to happen. And just a reminder, I think it's easy to turn on the news or to talk to people and get really negative and concerned about things and what's going to happen, how long is it going to take. Just a reminder that we will return to normalcy, right? At some point we will get back to businesses being open, to people back into a normal world, and just a reminder not to lose hope or to get too trapped in this worry that we have out there. So the third and final topic for today is talking about automation and de-automation. I stole this drawing from Carl Richards, who is a famous advisor in our field. And I think it's a really good reminder of what we should be focusing on, right? The things that matter and where they meet the things that we can control. So it's really easy to get caught up in the things that matter, but that are so macro level that we have no control over. Recognizing, make sure that you're focusing on what part of things you can control. And I want to finish with a few things that you can do to affect change within your own life. It's not always easy to sit back and say, okay, well, Craig told me that eventually the economy is going to recover and the stock market will be good, and to just stay the course. It's really difficult to do nothing sometimes. And so here are a couple things that you can be doing in the meantime to help improve your situation. So talking about automation, basically it's when you look at human nature, typically we follow the path of least resistance. And when you look to businesses, they certainly have recognized this. So all of the streaming services out there offer the first month free, because they know that after the first month, we're going to be too lazy to go in and actually cancel it, right? Or places like Chewy offer, if you turn on an auto shipment, they'll give you a discount because they know that we're likely going to be too lazy to go in and change the auto shipment. Or probably the best example out there on automation to make money are casinos. They are incredible at it. So things like why they have everyone use chips instead of cash. Is because it's a lot easier to spend chips than it is to spend cash. People are more hesitant to spend cash, and that slows things down. The reason why they've done away with levers on a lot of the slot machines and switched to a button is it's really easy to press a button. You don't have the resistance of doing work to pull the lever. And my favorite example are the floors at casinos. If you ever take a look at a casino carpet, it's not that they have really terrible interior designers. It's actually the opposite. They're pretty genius in it. They're designed to make it look nauseating. They're designed that if you look at the carpet, it makes your eyes go cross a little bit. And so you're driven from looking at the floor to looking up, which encourages people, right? Takes out some of the ways that you can avert spending your money and drives you to go gambling. So they're really masters at kind of automating human behavior, making things as easy as possible to spend your money. My apologies. Oh, and Siri's listening in on our conversation, I guess. So it's not all bad news, right? It's not all businesses finding ways to automate bad behaviors. There's some really good behaviors that you can automate and make easier for yourself. So things like any smartwatch, most of them are designed to prompt you to stand up or take a walk if you've been sitting for too long. Mortgage companies, there's a really good way to automate good behavior, not just automatically paying your mortgage on time each month, but you can automate to overpay on it to reduce your principal each month that you're doing it. So I know with mine, I do an extra $50 every mortgage payment, and I don't have to think about it. By making it automatic, it's much more likely to happen. The 401k is really good at automating good decisions. So obviously every paycheck, you're saving the same percentage without having to think about it as a positive automation. Most plans offer an automatic increase program. So if you say, I mean to be saving more each year, but if I'm going to wait until I get around to actually doing it for myself, it's probably not going to happen. I'll elect the automatic increase. That will happen each year without me thinking about it, which means that I'll actually take those good steps. The same along the lines with automatic rebalancing or dynamic portfolios. So these are things like your target date fund, right? I mean to be invested in the right stuff. Why not choose something that will automatically adjust as I get there without waiting for me to think and go back in and change my investments? The other side of the coin with automation is de-automation, right? Trying to make bad things, bad decisions as difficult as possible to make. So in life, a few examples are, right, instead of buying chocolate when you're at the grocery store, when you're on a diet, just don't buy it, and then there's not the temptation. If you have a habit of spending or overspending on websites, remove the saved credit card information you have on your browser. Make it that you have to take an extra step, make it more difficult for you to do it, and you're likely to spend less. And remove shopping apps from your phone. So I had to do this with myself. I found that I was buying way too much from Amazon. And so now I don't have the Amazon app. Instead, I have to go to Google Chrome and type in Amazon and log in each time, which forces me to take extra steps to go through it. Kind of annoying, but it's a good way to discourage me from spending on there. And the same with, if you find you have a social media addiction, sign out each time that you're done. The act of having to go through and type in your password and username each time is enough to discourage you from making that decision. So financially or investment wise, there's a few ways to de-automate bad decisions here. I like to use some rules when it comes to investing to prevent me from making bad decisions myself. The first couple are just good on big decisions in general. So choosing to sleep on it, talking it over with someone who knows what they're doing first. Before I make any investment changes, I always force myself to calculate the number of years between now and when I get to retire, which is a reminder of, okay, I'm making this decision, make sure it aligns with 30 years and not with 30 days. And then I really encourage people, only make your investment changes from your desktop. I really love that we have the app for most of the platforms that we work with. But sometimes they make it too easy to make changes. So you don't want to be, out at a bar once things are open back up and thinking, oh, I should really change my investments after a drink, and making the change from your phone. Make your investment changes when you have a chance to sit down and thoughtfully make the changes. And a good way to do that is not make changes from the app, make them all from your desktop. So as I mentioned at the start, happy to take some questions. I know I ran 2 minutes over on time, so I apologize for that. I see that someone's already utilized it, but there's a Q&A button built into the Zoom, so definitely feel free to use that. If you're more comfortable, or if you have in-depth questions or very specific to you individually questions, please feel free to reach out. My contact information's there. Before the questions, however, I do like to finish with thank you. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for the business and trust that you place with us here at Sage Rutty. And then also thank you to our essential workers out there, taking care of things, taking care of business, keeping us and our community safe. We really appreciate it. Shannon from our team, thank you for doing this fun Photoshop. We were not breaking the social distancing rules. The masks are Photoshopped onto an old photo, but thought that was a little fun. So happy to address any questions, and thank you again for your time today.